Hi dear all, my name is Natalia Zachynska and today you're watching a webinar on essentials of young learners assessment, especially what's behind the criteria. And I'm presenting on behalf of ENBI agency, which co-founder I am, together with a friend of mine, the greatest teacher trainer and a very beautiful person, Natalia Zachynska. So this is a bonus session. This is a bonus webinar for all of the participants of our first conference for young learners in Ukraine, which took place in Vinnytsia on the 9th, 10th, and 11th online of January 2026. I hope this recording will be watched by many people during many years, and we'll go back to 2026 and remember that that was one of the best conferences in Ukraine for young learners. A little bit about myself. So I'm Delta, Module 1, Module 3 in progress, CELTA, TKT, not full. I don't have TKT young learners in CLIL, but I do have first, second, and third modules. Also, I trained for them. I'm a co-founder of A+ Training Center, and also I'm a co-founder and founder, to be honest, of A+ Language Center, which are based in Ukraine, in Khmelnytsky in particular. We are a Cambridge Exams Preparation Center, and also I'm a lecturer at a number of universities. I teach methodology and how to build courses. Well, I'm a mom and I'm a workaholic. And the most important thing above all, I'm a teacher and my passion is assessment. And that's why today's session is devoted solely to assessment, but very unusual assessment. And let's have a look at which one. Well, first of all, you're gonna look at this beautiful, I would say assessment, not criteria, but can-do scales. I asked, by the way, the Google Slides and AI built there to modify my slides in a more proper way because I'm very systematic and I'm not very creative. But my first question is actually, what is assessed in grade 4 and grade 5 according to Ukrainian standards? And you'll be really surprised because this is nothing in comparison with A1 level according to Common European English Framework or A2, because very mistakenly everyone thinks that actually A1 movers, this is somewhere maybe grade 2, and A2 flyers, this is somewhere like grade 3 and 4, because, well, this is the 4th year of learning. But I'll surprise you. According to a new Ukrainian school, first 2 years of school, the first and the second year, are actually pre-A1. Here on the presentation, you will see the links to Ministry of Education. But yes, 2 years for pre-A1. And when we get to movers, A1, actually we'll see that this is the 3rd and the 4th year of New Ukrainian School, which is surprise, surprise, because we teachers demand from our learners, especially in the 4th grade, knowledge of A2 flyers, which we think they are already obtaining, but unfortunately not. When we talk about A2 flyers, these are actually 5th and 6th graders, but not, unfortunately, 4th or 3rd ones, unless they have English as their second language of education, or they follow Cambridge schools, or they have intensive classes of English every single day. Well, and that is the greatest bias, and this is the biggest trick, because when our first 4th graders actually finish their 4th grade, they go to the 5th grade, and teachers, we usually have problem whether what they can do, what they cannot do, how to assess it, what to expect from them, what to demand, and what to assess, in fact. So let's take a closer look at what actually A1 movers, let's recall it back. According to New Ukrainian School, these are third and fourth graders, 2 years of education, right? They can actually do not that much, and but still there is a communication in their choice. So let's have a look. They can agree and disagree with someone, but not like, sure, I do understand your pain, or no, it's not for my liking. They'll say, yes, it is, or, well, I think this is pretty. Or they may say, I don't know, yes, no, I don't want to. I don't want to is more complicated. So they will say, no, don't. They can give simple descriptions. So when we see the picture book, even in the third grade, please don't tell this our favorite, like there is nothing to read, only pictures. Actually, this is the way of communication for one mover, and they can describe the object, the picture, the action, but medial in a very simple way, in a very simple vocabulary, and not always in sentences. These are phrases. They can answer the questions, but very important thing, very rarely they possess the skill of asking questions, and that is the trick. Because remember, we want to create this artificial dialogues on artificial topics for the third or the fourth grader when they communicate as adults, but unfortunately they are A1 and they can answer questions and maybe put very, very, very simple questions when actually they are drilled how to do it, they are trained how to do it, and they know what to expect. And very important, within their cognitive abilities, they can understand what they ask. So these are very random, very simple topics with a very simple language. Also, as for writing, like they can write simple sentences given personal detail. It means I live in a town, and it's fantastic for A1. It's beautiful for A1, but they can say I live in Khmelnytsky, my native city, my hometown. I live in Kiev. Or where do you live? And the answer will be from a A1 mover or the third and the fourth grader in Khmelnytsky, in Lviv, in Torun, in New York. How old are you? They will not say, well, I am. Well is the linker. Yeah, that's an exclamation. Many other functions, but they will say 5 or 10 or 6 or 4. And here actually is the communication happening. They understood the question, they gave you the answer, they didn't misunderstand it. Yeah, there was a communication. Other thing is that please do not expect from them the list of questions in a very simple language. Because again, due to their age differences, due to their neurolinguistic development, they are not still there. And this is the second language for them. Not even the second language, but the language they are learning. One more important thing, what they can understand. And there are several reasons why they don't understand everything. Not even because they know the words. Sometimes it's difficult for them to imagine the notion that it doesn't exist, which is abstract even in their own language. So they can understand simple stories with the help of pictures. That's why A1 movers or A1 of any kind, yes, but for primary school, very important for primary school, not for an adult learner or for a teenager, by the way, they differ, is always supported with pictures, with something really, really visual. So let's have a look. They understand simple stories with the help of pictures. So actually, everything which is around them is a story. It's a fairy tale, a story, some kind of a cartoon, again, a story. But they understand more, but can produce less. Again, receptive and productive skills. They're absolutely different and they develop differently. Today we're going to talk about that on the webinar, the reason why they do it, or they have it. Well, one more important thing we want to talk them right away. Well, that's the 3rd year or the 4th year of their school. Why they don't, I don't know, order anything from Amazon and cannot support a very simple conversation on the delivery of items? Well, actually, again, they cannot. They can understand it, but they cannot produce still. Again, due to Pidgeot's algorithm, not that the algorithm, but the stages of development, still they don't imagine this. They cannot understand this. Not because they are like low in intelligence, no, because the brain is still developing, and here the language, English, is coming, and it's a problem for them. They have this cognitive dissonance of what they hear, what they see, what they can produce, whether they know this notion in their native language, L1, or this is something you taken from L2. So they can tell a very simple story with the help of, again, pictures. Everywhere there is a visual support. That's why what is assessed, the way how they understand the picture, or how smoothly they tell you the story. Keep this question in your head. When we go to A2 flyers or A2 level for primary school, because you will go to early teens later on, there is a slight difference. This moment you can stop the video, and look attentively and compare, but I'll focus on the main details, on the main aspects. So we're often aimed at production. So let's have a look at this. Whenever we look at A2 flyers, these are usually 5th and 6th grades. So this is year 5, year 6 at school. Unfortunately, not year 3 or year 4, because like logically we have course book number 1, then course book number 2, and this says 1 year. One level usually takes 2 years. Whenever we go further, take a look here. Unlike A1, A2ers, primary school, are able to write simple descriptions of objects and people. And Sarah's eating a strawberry. Unlike writing short sentences about what they like and dislike. So, due to the brain development, the language which they absorb, now they can produce a bit more due to number of practical hours which they have. Now we can assess something. And something is that they have to know what are their likes and dislikes, but now this is something which we assess as ability to describe something using the language which is needed for A2 and required at their level. So when we talk, they can tell a story using a picture or their own idea. A very big difference actually is here, own idea. Think attentively, how much knowledge, how much language should the 5th or 6th grader have in order to describe in the language, which is still very limited, the idea he or she has. That's surprising. So this is what they are able to do. But how they are able to do it, how well they can, this is actually the task of assessment. But for us, dear teachers, it's really important to understand that we cannot require something for A2 when we have a student who is actually A1, regardless whether this is year 4 or year 5 of learning. So, but again, surprise, surprise, we have one more A2. And is this the same A2? Again, these are the flyers, right? This is usually the language exam or criteria also which are taken into consideration for young learners. But now we have one more A2, and this exam is called A2 Key for Schools. Regardless whether you are the Adventist of Cambridge exams or you follow Pearson or Duolingo or anything else, but this is where actually the shoe itches. A2 is different. Whenever we talk about A2 flyers and look at A2 flyers, we can see that this is the very first beginning of A2. This is not the full good A2 level, which is actually very good and gives a lot of opportunities for the obtainer of this level. And this one, these are the criteria and these are the abilities of A2 young teenager and a teenager, because it's A2 key for schools. Don't confuse it with A2 key for adult learners. Now I want you to take a look, and again, we love production. Let's look at production, right? We go to writing here. And our young teenager can complete forms and write short, simple letters or postcards related to personal information. Unlike weak A2, I wouldn't say like weak. This person is at the beginning of the journey for having full A2. They can link sentences with connectors, and because then, very logical, the same here, they can write simple descriptions of objects and people, write short stories using pictures. And here, our young teenager or the person who is taking A2 as an adult age can complete forms, write short, simple letters or postcards. Well, rarely someone writes postcards nowadays, but nevertheless, related to personal information. Well, language is pretty the same, right? Like no third conditional or, I don't know, some outlandish, as we say, words, right? Like the same outlandish word by itself. Yeah, but still, it's different. Why it's important to understand for us? It's important to understand first, because sometimes we demand something from our fifth graders and fourth graders which they are not able to do, they are not taught to do, and they don't know how to do it. Though they may have like A2. One more, they can complete most forms related to personal information. Whenever we talk about teenagers and young teenagers, they understand already the necessity, they obtain the language, they have it, they possess the knowledge, they have models related to what they are asked to. Young or early A2ers don't. They are taught how to live in the world of stories due to their image of it. They may have some letters, but this is usually guided writing, model writing, as well as A2 key for schools who are older than A2 flyers who are taking the same exam, or they are mistakenly assessed by same assessment criteria. It's different. The same about speaking. If we talk about A2 flyers, yes, they are able to tell a story using pictures or their own idea. But when we talk about early teenagers who usually take A2 key for schools or who are assessed according to criteria needed for A2, but teenagers due to their cognitive development, they are able to express simple opinion requirements in a familiar context. Again, basic context, but still different aspect of using the language they have. Can express likes and dislikes. Yes, it's familiar to A2, they need it. But then they can express simple opinions using expressions such as I don't agree, because they can use and they combine together their ideas using the language. And this is crucial because A2 flyers, this is the beginning of A2. A2 key for schools here. This is full A2, which can actually proceed to the full B1 beginner. B1 preliminary, sorry. Well, again, this picture was generated by Google Slides, and I wanted it to be a bit more not childish, but about childhood, right? Because we talk about young learners. What is really important and what is based behind everything and the learning of why they actually make mistakes, what to assess. This is again the beautiful person who's unfortunately passed away, but left a lot of methodological reference materials, Stephen Krashen and his monitor model. I do really advise you to go and to look into it, but actually it tells us why and how young learners in primary school are taught differently. They acquire the language differently. And now I want you to take a look at 3 of them. So the very first one, we always unfortunately don't take into consideration the way how the brain develops within the learners, especially primary schools. We neglect or we don't want to see the interlanguage acquisition. When learners make mistakes because they learn, when they compare the L2 with L1, when they do it naturally, and when natural order hypothesis comes into the game, and when the learner needs to try errors, mistakes, but still tells us what he thinks, when they respond and they have this silent period, when we use TPR and we say, oh, there is nothing to assess, they don't understand me, or they don't talk, they don't write, but they react. And very often, fourth graders and fifth graders, due to various number of circumstances, they are very silent and there is little production, and we think, oh, okay, they are dummies. No, they are not. Their silent period is longer. Their acquisition of language takes more time than others, maybe due to number of hours, maybe to like late coming into your English classes, various of factors. The least one is actually the classroom. And also when the child is actually forced, yes, we have to admit, forced to be in a classroom, learning happens. That's like factual learning, right? With this active learning hours, then we calculate how many hours they need to learn the language, and guided learning hours. But again, everyone has their individual pace. And we love correcting. We put their fluency over accuracy and childhood in their primary school, where actually vice versa should be done. So we choose accuracy over the content they give you, the contextual learning, and we want them to understand rules, which are absolutely not to their opinion. And then we check their rules. So they can learn the rule, but they cannot put the rule into practice because, again, it doesn't work like that. If you want to learn more about that, go to PJETS, and he shows how actually the learning process happens. But everything this is connected in what we hear in a classroom. So let's have a look. So the very first thing is learners make mistakes. And finally, we admit that mistakes is the process of learning. So, but we rarely understand the nature of mistakes, why they happen. So, for example, our learner says, I know want. Communication happened. We know that they don't like, dislike, and it's A1. Well, is it accurate? No. But do we know the reason why the learner makes the mistake? Yes. It's in our Ukrainian context, it's L1 interference, right? Because we say, я не хочу, I don't want. So, but in English, there is an auxiliary verb. For learner of the third or the second form, auxiliary verb sounds like they don't understand why they have it. That's why they need to observe the Babismart of correct variants, drill them for sure, but first they need to understand why. Also, where he is. In Ukrainian, we have different word orders, but in English, the very direct one. So the learner tries to understand how it interferes with my language. Okay, I'll use the pattern from my language, and this is how it happens. But actually, did he want to put the question? Yes. Could we hear the intonation? Yes. Using the intonation, signalizing, and using the question word, does it show us that actually the learner knows the question, why he puts the question, the very important why. And then the second one will go accuracy. We will teach him how. Here, I really like these ones, especially when learners are in the process of learning and they start, learn the rule on, we have S here on plurals, and they know they're like, S. I know that S is ending as given or is put when we have plural. Lovely. So I'll put plural there and I'll put it everywhere. So what does it signalize that the learner doesn't know it? We need to teach them the rule, or we need to give more practice and more examples so the learner could understand where exactly, and then there are some exceptions out from the rule, right? Super. Yes, it's overgeneralization. Or here, I go to the park. First of all, every teacher wants to take a red ink pen and in red ink just correct it. Went. That's participle, yes, and it's ed ending and it's irregular verb. But does it signalize that the learner knows the word order in a sentence? The learner knows about existing of past simple. The learner just needs to work a little bit on the form because the meaning is already covered. But what happens in primary school, we give the form first rather than the meaning. And we think that it's more important because we're building the frame for every other language teaching and learning, but unfortunately not. One more important thing is actually who's the learner. And I would say that that's the biggest paradox ever, because when we know who's the learner, we know how to assess him or her. And in Ukraine, there is a greatest bias. Whenever I ask anyone of teachers, actually, what is considered primary school? Europeans and my international colleagues would definitely say, oh, everyone between 6 to 12 years old. All international exams are based like that. In Ukraine, young learners, that's primary school, right? This is usually someone between 6, maximum 10. And then they get to young secondary school or early secondary school. And now they are considered to be teenagers. But in fact, I called it gray zone. They are not teenagers yet. They want flyers mode. They want pictures in the fifth form. And in the fifth form, we give them something based for teenagers, designed for teenagers, which is the problem. Their cognitive levels don't get there. Assessment, you feel that there is something wrong, but you don't understand what exactly. So I'll tell you this. Again, this is based on my 13-year experience in teaching, assessing, and designing programs for my language school and helping others. So I would like you to stay with me here and take a look. Young learners are typically aged 6 to 12 in all European countries. That's why all of the course books you would see, for example, Academy Stars, latest levels, they are 5th and 6th graders. And what our teachers say, they are so childish, we need something more for teenagers. And what they do, they go to something new. And then this bridge between the 4th and the 5th form is broken. Not yet a teenager, not anymore considered to be a primary schooler. These 2 years, but why they say the 5th year at school is like we say like the turbulent year, because we teach not the teenager. We teach, I would say, all the primary. Yeah. And that's why topics, assessment criteria, the approach to teaching doesn't work. We feel it, yeah? So we know that this gap, when they come, they're already they're lost. And that is the reason your materials in the fifth form, your assessment approaches still, unfortunately, have to be kiddos, but not for teenagers. So you have to put marks and assess this not teenagers, but still not primary schoolers in this gray zone during these 2 years. To read about this more, you can go to, I do really like Cambridge Assessment Scope and especially the research which are made and done on that, because they show how skills develop, how they evolve, and it gives you more understanding actually what is assessed and how to do it, what are there to be assessed. And I want you to take a look here. The topics actually are very close, right? A2, flyer, scope. Also here are the links for updated 2025, by the way, vocabulary and grammar list for key for schools have been updated. And flyers, it's A2, but for primary school. But remember, 5th and 6th forms are still primary school, considered to be like that. But look how differently the same topics are put. So when we talk about A2 flyers, these are animals, body, clothes, like you can read it eventually. And also integrated grammar. I want you to keep it in mind, integrated. Also, flyers have present perfects, but rather for contextualizing nor for checking. The same, but as for A2 key for schools, this is a must. And when we talk about body, A2 will give you health. If we talk about flyers, animals, nature, A2 key for schools will give you environment. Though it's still A2, both. If we talk about grammar, remember likes and dislikes? But now, A2 key for schools will require and want from you, again, A2-ish, present perfect for experiences only. That's important. Always when you read the requirements, read for what exactly this language is taught here. Whenever we go to practice, I'm into practice really, and I want you now to try it. This is A2 flyers, and this is the writing task. If you go back in your presentation, or you'll scroll back the recording or what play it back, you'll see that they are able to tell a story using the picture. If we talk about A2 key, there are no pictures, right? There's something different. So imagine how many processes in the head of the learner should be there so they could understand how to link the story, how to use their A2, how to combine it, how to make it logical. Let's imagine. Again, remember, A2 flyers is considered for 5th graders and 6th graders in Europe, actually for the whole scope. But we demand this at the end of 4th grade. So let's have a look. They don't have separate assessment criteria for each of the components. They have only one. And I want you to take a look seriously. They don't have this division: grammar, vocabulary, content, task achievement, or many others. Still, to the end of the 4th grade, 5th and 6th grade, can you imagine this? 5th and 6th grade in Ukrainian school, or new Ukrainian school, or intellect, or at courses, we give them different criteria. But in fact, criteria in European countries don't start until the 5th or 6th form, until the 6th form. And again, this gray zone of the learners, they are forced to undergo all of the assessments. So let's look what we have to assess for A2 flyers. And let me remind you that there is only one level here, and it's beginning of A2. It's not full A2. But to be excellent there and to have A2, you need to what? Explicitly connect progressions. These descriptions are taken from Handbook for Teachers, published in 2024. The link is here too. Or you can just screenshot it and go into Google. Then based on 3 pictures. So actually, like, you work on content already, you teach them how to work on it. and minimal effort for reader. It means that when you read it, you understand it. It doesn't mean that there are no mistakes. That's the greatest bias ever. There are mistakes. They can be there. That's okay. But still, you understand, you enjoy it. And three, like, let's imagine that pictures in future at A2 key and any other, or if you don't prepare them for exams, in any other written production will be what? Will be your questions. But still, for A2 young learners, they are pictures. Then we have very good, like nice. 3 pictures should be there. Some reader effort should be there. It means that you may not understand this like something because of the spelling. You may not understand something because of, I don't know, overusing or interlanguage or some L1 L1 reasons for mistake, but still you understand what was there. Then satisfactory, it's 3. So it means that there is a progression. It addresses at least one picture. So something happened, we don't know what, some picture was lost. Or you have 3 pictures, 3, but it's really difficult to follow. Maybe they are reordered, maybe the tenses are missed or some phrases are missing too, and it's difficult for you to make the endmates, but still it is there. So, and this is the only thing which is actually assessed. So content is over accuracy in assessment. I do really ask you to not confuse it with not correcting mistakes, not drilling, not giving control practices. I mean, in the sort of where you have to have focus on accuracy. But what I'm saying is be very careful of what you assess and what you develop with the young learners. Well, surprise, surprise. In real webinar, not webinar, but webinar, when we have the participants here, I usually hide it. But for you, for the listener or the viewer, I want to have some explanation here because you can stop again and look at it very carefully. So see, only 1 mark is given. Everything in total is assessed. Again, A2 flyers or at the beginning of A2, which level is considered to be at the beginning of the 5th grade, according to NUSH. But unfortunately, a lot of teachers demanded from the 4th graders or even 3rd graders when it's intellect. It's not right. So let's have a look here. We see these beautiful space images, and there is a response of a student. We don't know him, but nevertheless, he's here and he wrote, "Once upon a time in the space, we understand his Spanish, yeah, astronaut come to the Equestria planet." Can you imagine the word? And won. And that happened. Teachers in Ukraine, we would be very, very precise and would say 0, nothing. It's horrible, right? Because we say once upon a time, this is like this could be learned by heart and the learner doesn't use it, like, yeah, but take a look at the examiner comment. Again, there is a link here, so you could go and read more on that, but still, the candidate has produced phrases that are comprehensible to the reader. See? Even un astronaut is there. So we understand that the learner wanted to say one, he failed, and there's only OU due to L1 interference for sure, but astronaut is there, okay? However, without having demonstrated an ability to communicate a progression of events. Not because of linguistic or language mistakes, but due to the reason that The learner didn't finish. See? But here's the beautiful answer. Take a look. One day there was an astronaut who visited moon, and it's good A2. We definitely see it from the first sentence. Was very hungry, so he asked the alien for food, and alien agreed, and he had food with him. See, very, very long sentence. Not 2 sentences, not 3 sentences usually, which we demand due to the content, to the organization. Let me go back. A2 flyers. They are 1 mark for everything, not separately. Separate criteria, which are given in a New Ukrainian School, which is usually used, which are usually used by private language schools, right? It's not like that. English is assessed here, like whether the communication was there, whether we understood what was the purpose. Here I'm coming to this, I say focus of it, why it was written. What, like when we talk about production and developing these productive skills with the learner and then assessing them within young learners in primary school, you don't put something separate. Grammar, vocabulary, punctuation, content of words, organization, it's a chaos for their head. Go to PJET, they don't understand it yet. They can learn it and swat it, but they cannot use it in a proper way. So again, 1 score, 5 marks, that's it. Here. If you need more, you can go here and have more examples. But now let's compare. Again, A2, yeah, and it was here. This was the slide which I made myself. I wanted you to, not to get stuck to the screen and to see the difference. Please use AI to help you, but please use your brains to write what AI helps you. So my question is for you. Is this task complete if grammar or maybe and vocabulary are not correct? In our case, in the previous moment. Well, the first thing, in what context? If it's primary school teaching, no grammar, no vocabulary separately. Never. It's language. It's just language. The other thing is, in Ukraine, the 5th and the 6th form, again, remember this gray zone, they have grammar and vocabulary separately. But actually, due to their development and understanding of actually how language works, it's a great bias. We have to be very careful what we assess. If the focus of the task was just to write grammatically correct sentences, and the focus was only one grammatical structure or language structure, yes. But then don't think about content or anything else. If the task was vocab and how they spell it, for sure, it's just spelling and vocabulary. But if you ask them to write something or to talk about something, my dear all, ask yourself, what are you assessing for? Are you assessing for language, which you taught and you want to see the evidence of learning, how they use it? Okay, then don't touch anything else. Maybe you taught them how to write a story, A2 flyers, right? And you want to see whether the storyline was preserved, like whether 3 pictures were described. So then please don't touch the language. You need to see whether like 3 points were reached. And that would be about what? Your production skill about writing. Very early, very guided, product 1, maybe models a little bit, but still. Your learners also need to know what you are expecting from them. Always. You have to be very clear on what you assess and what you ask them. Because here, again, this is the description of assessment of writing scale for A2. But it's A2 key for schools. This is something which is considered to be ready enough for 5th and 6th grade, but actually 7th is good. if you look attentively at Ministries of Education requirements to international language, especially into English, you'll see that as a level of A2 should be obtained, ta-da, at the ninth form, 8th, 9th form. Not the 5th. If it's not Ukrainian, if new Ukrainian school is there, and B1 when they finish school. If it's just secondary school with not intensive learning of English, not linguistic class. And B1 at the 9th form and B2 in the 11th form, only under the condition they have extra hours of English. Even if due to new recommendations, B1 at the 9th form, so A2, definitely somewhere in between 7th and 8th, or late 6th, 7th, and 8th, not the 5th one. But unfortunately, we try to use this to assess the 5th graders. And this is where the paradox happens. We burn out, students burn out, they don't know how to achieve our expectations, we don't know how to teach them what we expect. If we teach only separate students understand it, those who have extra hours of English, and this is the loop, the vicious circle which always leaves us dissatisfied for the teachers who take the 5th graders, not even the 6th one. This is gray zone. So, but now have a look. A2 key. They have division of 3 scales. Take a look. Criteria. The content, then the organization and the language still. Not separately grammar, not separately vocabulary, but language together. And very important. I'm not talking about like failing, not failing the exam. We're not about the exam today. We're about assessment today. So whenever you have any writing of your Lana, take a look attentively. 3 is already A2. 2, 1, these are A1-ish. It means they are strong A1. They need some assistance, a little bit of your help. They will get there. When you have 5, like excellent, well, it's a high time for Alana, yeah, to get B1. Or you may say that, yes, they are ready to go to next for a grade and go to next program level. But still, look attentively what they are able to do and tell me, is there anything which says no mistakes? Let's go to language, where everyone likes it. Even for an excellent student with good A2, very strong one, while errors are noticeable, meaning can still be determined. Just for A2 beginner, errors may impede meaning at times. So, perfectly well written, great. Even with mistakes, also great. The thing is, what kind of mistakes are there? You go to A2 key for schools requirements, vocabulary list, it's over here too, and grammar list. They go together with language requirements, right? And you see whether this is something they are learning during A2 key course, or this is something they had to know at A1 or A2 flyers, which was the basis for A2 for key. It means, for example, if they are supposed to know irregular verbs, basic ones, yes, when they make mistakes in the regular verb or do not use it properly several times, not just occasionally asleep, it means, unfortunately, yes, they don't know those. But if there is an attempt for conditional to be used, you're like, okay, good job. You don't punish for this, you avoid. You say, the learner knows about existing. He or she put that in the proper place, wanted to use it. Well, I have a great learner. You don't punish for the mistake, which is not according to A2 requirement. Or the learner puts, let it be, uses passive voice, but develops something absolutely different, like anti-language. So for you, that's the signal. If it's passive voice, let it be passive continuous, something happened, he brought it from TikTok, streaming or whatever. You're like, good job, we didn't learn it. The learner knows that there is such kind of a construction. Good, I'm not punishing him for this. I'm not taking away the band. But if the learner keeps making mistakes at SES endings, negative forms, yes, that's a signal the learner doesn't know it. He's supposed to know it at this particular level. Sure, that's a mistake. So in this way, you judge. In this way, you focus. But again, you have to decide what are you assessing for. If the main thing is content and you really want to learners to develop this fluency, lovely. Then leave out organization and language for the second and third reading, or second and third time, one in a bit. Well, here is a typical question, a typical thing which A2 key for schools or our sixth graders, maybe seventh ones, but not the fifth ones, though they are given this, should write. Go into shopping, yes, with your English friend Pat tomorrow. So future tenses are there. You are going to plans for intentions. So this is what they need to know. And you need to say 3 things. See, the same A2, but instead of pictures, you have, well, let's call it sentences or points to open. Where you want to meet, what time, and what you want to buy. It's all about present and future. Likes, dislikes. But this is what you have to know you are able to do. And write 25 words or more. Not that much, right? And let's see what is there. And candidate D was horrible. Yes, some kind of a teacher would say. But take a look. Content 3, it means that all of the 3 points might be there or might be not. Let's have a look. Organization is not good because you're going to write, yes, an email. It's not an organization of an email. Language, for such kind of production at A2 flyers, you would definitely put something higher than 2. But this is A2 key for schools. This is for, I would say, early teens. So see what is that. Take a minute of your time. The comments say that, target reader is informed about bullet point 1 and 2. But we don't know what the writer wants to buy. So we are not fully informed. So at home, I do really recommend you to go back to criteria or screenshot them and come back here. Well, only the simple linking word after. Very important detail. At A2 key, you are supposed to have after, before, but, or, and. Because again, we talk about now an early teenager or teenager, maybe definitely not a primary, who wants to produce the language, have some production, and express the thought, an idea. When we go to A2 flyer, which is actually fourth grade in Ukraine, 5th and 6th grade in Europe, we're like, that would be nice. So see, we're actually really demanding. As for language, we meet you, house, let's go shopping. So actually no mistakes on spelling, but word order, verbs, many other things which deprive us, right? So impede understanding. And that's a problem. That's why languages too. But see, 3 criteria, absolutely different scores. So you read separately, but that's with teenagers and young teenagers because their brain already, according to Piaget, by the way, very important thing, can categorize and understand how to write for what, can follow the pattern and the criteria, unlike young learners. And that is the problem. Whenever we are setting students up to writing and speaking traps, this is the first one. You give them the task which is definitely really difficult for them. When in the 4th grade we give them pictures, in the 5th and the 6th grade we give them just lists. And or we demand more because we consider them already young teenagers. In fact, they are not. They are still kids. Their brain is still evolving, and the criteria do not work. So the thing is that how to do it, it's your guided writing and modeling, asking them, showing them, giving the pattern, drilling it, working on it, and then assessing what you taught them accordingly to that kind of pattern. Not demand them to, according to Bloom's taxonomy, to create something new. They cannot steal. They don't have enough language. Because what happens during this intersection of the gap between the 4th grade and the 5th grade, the second term of the 5th grade, our learners get immense cognitive overload. Change of criteria, change of assessment, change of demands, change of requirements, change of everything, and they cannot understand what they are wanted, what are they expected. So we can help them with assessment. We can do the following. We can scaffold all the tasks. We can show them how they can brainstorm, the word banks, give them for their assistance. We can give them mind maps. Really helps in this transition of the 4th and the 5th form, substitution tables. Once you have it as the routine at the very beginning of their learning experience, even in primary schools, they can continue following this pattern when they are, especially in this period of the 5th and 6th grade. Then we need to understand whether we teach them the language and skills or separately, because in the 5th form and 6th forms, you are introducing them these different lesson frameworks, the combination of those. But in the primary school, especially the 4th form, yes, I'm talking about 4th and 5th now, the 4th form, they still have either lessons with focus on the language together with grammar, vocab, and all of the skills above. Or they have something like project-based learning, very popular clearly nowadays, which is absolutely different. So, and then during everything, skills are developed too. So you have multi-focused lessons with the focus of different kinds of aspects of learning. When you have this transition between the 4th and the 5th form, and in the 5th form, they get this division, and due to this division and different lesson plans, the lengths of the lessons, the types of criteria change, they are lost. They don't see the rules of the game. And teachers are usually very demotivated because they say, oh, they were so cool in the 4th form, something happened in the 5th. No, first of all, there is a boom in their growth. The second, they forget a lot during the summer period. We have this revision loop broken, and then we give them absolutely new curricular program and designed for teenagers, although they are still kids. What I'm saying is that, can we motivate the learners? How can we motivate them? An assessment can actually help. Assessment can help them by, again, it's up to you what you do in a classroom. Yes, we know that we need to have formative assessment, and in our primary school, formative and summative assessment together. But very important to remember that during the learning process itself, you have to assess task achievement over accuracy. What I mean by this, I mean that, for example, it's called the weight of grade. When you have the task, let's take, I don't know, multiple choice, right? A very simple task. And the learner, multiple choice, let it be on endings. You teach them in the 4th form irregular verbs and ed ending, and where you have the shift. Let's have it like that. And it's a multiple choice. So when the learner does it wrong, yeah? So the task isn't achieved. And it's not accurate because it's grammar. though you don't have clear grammar rules. But in the text, when the learner is reading it, he definitely spots past simple. He definitely sees that the forms of the verbs are different, right? And when you ask him, like, where's present, where's past, he shows you. So is it accuracy or task achievement? It's about task achievement, right? Or you may say that there is a text and there are some questions, and the learner answers the questions to the text, but while answering or having the phrase, he misuses or confuses ed ending, s ending, ing ending, but still he answers the question. So, for example, the blue was white, the Cinderella was, I don't know, in a carriage. And he makes mistakes in the language, though your question was about the, I don't know, carriage. So here the task was achieved, but there was no accuracy. But you were but you were interested in tasks, right? In task achievement, developing a skill in itself. Or writing. If we go back to that student who was describing 3 pictures with the astronaut, and there was only 1 mark, right? 5 or 3. And there were mistakes, but still, what was assessed in a component, it's all together because that's productive skill. So did he describe the picture? Yes. Did he talk about astronaut? Yes. Well, did he develop did he use all of the 3 pictures? No. So task achievement is not 100%. And then you go maybe to accuracy, just to develop it, to make his work better. Peer assessment is really nice. They really like assessing each other. It develops their learners' autonomy. Also, it gives them more clarity on what you expect from them, what the curriculum expects from them, what knowledge they need to have. So, why I wrote criteria here? Because again, dependent, even if there is A2 very beginning, you need to clearly tell them what they're reading for, what they are checking for, why they are doing this. There isn't that much criteria. When we talk about A2 key for schools, whether you have young learners, not young learners, I'm sorry, young teenagers, you need to give them very direct criteria if we talk about writing in our case, because I chose those examples on purpose, so to see the whole to show you the whole scope, how you can do it. Yeah, so you need to say, okay, you read for organization, whether it looks like email or not, what are the signs of email? Or this time we work on language on the rating. So you read only for, let it be past simple, past continuous use. Nothing else is taken into consideration, but only this. Then formative feedback and summative one. Formative is really important, but make sure you understand what's that. It's not test 100% and that's it. It's about what was good, how was it, how can you improve it, what is your ongoing process, where are you now? These are very wide notions, but be very clear in what you mean. And one more. Yeah, very important for me was to show you that there is the whole world behind assessment, and that's an intro session for assessment, but we are so into going for curricula, doing units, writing tests, teaching them accuracy over fluency, where correct answer matters more than whether what is written inside this correct answer, what is the content, that actually we sometimes demand impossible from them. Because again, we clearly do not understand to the very end who is in front of us. The young teenager who just is really very low and weak, and we have to help him, but our orientation is A2 key for schools, or we have a very, very strong primary schooler who's still a child but is gifted, and we use another criteria to assess him. Because again, we need to assess the child, right? The performance of how, but not the curriculum, whether we ticked the boxes, did all of the tasks, but what behind the tasks. We don't know. Some mistakes can signalize that either they are learning, whether they fossilized, whether that's overgeneralized, or maybe the task is not appropriate to their age and level, and even to the grade. So I thank you so much. I hope you really enjoyed it. I do really hope to see the comments, maybe the questions about the video. I do really invite you to join ENBI agency. We are a non-governmental organization, non-for-profit, which unites teachers. And here you can find the link. How you can join, you can become a member or just follow our events, and also just direct us and ask for any help you need. Also, this is the website of the training session center, I'm sorry, which I represent. And here are the links here, or QR codes here. But first and the most important is that we teach, and we teach differently, but all our knowledge is aimed at kids, so and our students. So I do wish us to be beyond competition with each other, but compete only in one thing: how to become the teacher who really sees the value of knowledge of our learners. So thank you so much. My name is Natalia Zachynska, and I do really hope you enjoyed the session.